Good evening. We'll call the City Council meeting to order. It's 5:02 p.m. City Clerk, may I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Gerson,
Present.
Councilmember Kaji,
Here.
Councilmember Kalani is absent, Councilmember Lewis,
Present.
Councilmember Matsucci,
Here.
Councilmember Sheik,
Present.
Mayor Chen.
Present. The council will now recess to close session to confer with the city manager and city attorney on agenda matters listed under 13A, Public Employee Discipline, Dismissal, Release. 13B, Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation. 13C, Conference with Legal Counsel, Anticipated Litigation. 13D, Conference with Labor Negotiator. And 13E, Real Property, Conference with Real Property Negotiator. A closed session on these matters is authorized by California Government Code Section 54957, 54957.9D2, 54956.9D4, and 54957.6, and 54956.8. I think City Attorney wants to say something.
And I should have contacted you earlier. It slipped my mind. On items 13B, one of those cases, and 13C, the facts related to those cases is a inadvertent disclosure of noise complainant names to a member of the public as a response to a Public Records Act request. And that's the reason for those two items.
All right. We'll return after closed session. Thank you. Good evening. We're reconvening our city council meeting. It's 6:31 p.m. And for the record, Councilwoman Kalani joined us at 5:54 p.m. in closed session. And I will ask the Deputy City Clerk to do a roll call.
Yes, Your Honor. Councilmember Gerson,
Present.
Councilmember Kaji,
Here.
Councilmember Kalani,
Present.
Councilmember Lewis,
Present.
Councilmember Matucci,
Here.
Councilmember Sheikh,
Present.
Mayor Chen.
Present. I'd like to welcome everyone joining us in the council chambers this evening and those watching remotely. We've been in closed session. City Manager, do we have any actions to report out? Or City Attorney?
Yes, Your Honor, Patrick Sullivan, City Attorney. During closed session, the council adopted an order of the City Council related to a termination hearing held on January 14th, 2025. They adopted the order by a vote of 7-0 to terminate the employee.
Thank you. Moving on to item 2, flag salute invocation. We honor those who make it possible for us to be here today. If there's anyone here in the audience who is on active duty or a military veteran, will you please stand and raise your hand so that we may recognize you? Please stand, please remain standing and rise, and Councilman Gerson will lead us on the flag salute, and Councilman Kaji in the invocation.
Tonight I'd like to read an excerpt from the book, Thou Dear God, Prayers That Open Hearts and Spirits by Dr. Martin Luther King, Jr. O God, we thank you for the lives of great saints and prophets in the past who have revealed to us that we can stand up amid the problems and difficulties and trials of life and not give in. We thank you for our foreparents who've given us something in the midst of the darkness of exploitation and oppression to keep going. Grant that we will go on with the proper faith and the proper determination of will so that we will be able to make a creative contribution to this world. In the name and spirit of Jesus we pray, amen. Thank you.
Thank you both. Moving on to item 3, announcements, withdrawn, deferred, or supplemental items.
Good evening, Your Honor. Anam Chaparian, City Manager. Item 9A will be deferred. It's an item from the Community Development to continue to the meeting of March 25th, 2025. We do have supplemental materials for item 8A from Community Services to approve the 2025 4th of July fireworks show and event enhancements. And that's all, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 4, I will take a motion to waive further reading of resolutions or ordinances after number and title.
Motion to waive further readings.
Second.
Start voting, please. Your Honor, that motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Moving on to item 5, council committee meetings and announcements. And Councilman Kaji would take the first one for our adjournment in memory of Kanji Sahara.
Thank you, Your Honor. I ask that we adjourn tonight's meeting in memory of Torrance resident Kanji Sahara, who passed away on February 15, 2025. He was a dedicated advocate, historian, and visionary whose unwavering commitment to justice and remembrance has left an indelible mark on our community. Kanji Sahara's personal history is one of resilience and perseverance. A retired Japanese-American scientist, he and his family were among the thousands unjustly uprooted from their homes and placed in internment camps during World War II. Kanji dedicated himself to ensuring that the stories of those who endured these injustices would be remembered, honored, and learned from. His vision inspired the creation of the future World War II Camp Wall Incarceration Monument to be built in Torrance, a monument that will stand in Columbia Park as a lasting tribute to the more than 125,000 Japanese Americans incarcerated in U.S. concentration camps during World War II. The monument will feature the names of those affected, serving as a powerful reminder of this chapter in history. Made possible through years of advocacy and a $5 million state grant, this project will stand as an enduring educational site, ensuring that future generations recognize the consequences of discrimination and the ongoing need to uphold justice for all. Kanji's leadership and passion brought together a dedicated group of community members who shared his vision. His work is a powerful reminder that remembrance is not just about the past, it is about shaping a more just and equitable future. On behalf of the City of Torrance, we extend our deepest gratitude for Kanji's lifetime of dedication and his contributions to our community. His legacy will live on in the monument he championed and the lives of those he inspired. May he rest in peace, and may we continue the work of ensuring that history is never forgotten. You can learn more about the project that Kanji was so passionate about by going to www.campwall.org. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Sheikh.
Thank you, Mayor. As we approach the month of March, I'd like to recognize National Red Cross Month, a tradition that began in 1943 when President Franklin Roosevelt first proclaimed it to raise awareness of the American Red Cross's humanitarian mission. We honor the incredible volunteers, blood donors, financial supporters, and those trained in life-saving skills who make a difference every day. The Red Cross plays a vital role in disaster relief, emergency response, and preparedness, both in Torrance and around the world. Locally, we are grateful for their impact, and I encourage everyone to get involved, donate blood, learn CPR, volunteer, or support their mission in any way you can. This month, let's show our appreciation for the Red Cross and its dedicated volunteers who embody the spirit of service and compassion. Together, we can build a stronger, more resilient community. Thank you to the American Red Cross and all those who contribute to this life-saving mission. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Next item I will share is last week we had a federal legislative advocacy trip summary. The advocacy committee consists of Councilman Kaji, Councilman Matucci, and myself, and with a delegation for the City of Torrance. We had a trip to Washington, D.C., where our dedicated workforce, where our delegation worked to secure funding and support for projects that would enhance Torrance infrastructure, economy, and quality of life. Engaging with key federal leaders, including Congressman Ted Lieu's policy advisors, Senators Alex Padilla and Adam Schiff, the Department of Justice, and the National Park Service, provided a valuable opportunity to advocate for public safety, infrastructure improvements, and economic initiatives that will benefit both residents and businesses. At the Pentagon, since we were in Washington, D.C., we met with the United States Army to discuss their 250th anniversary and their role as the featured branch in the city's annual Armed Forces Day Parade and celebration. Lieutenant Colonel Song and Brigadier General Amanda Azubuike graciously hosted us, expressing strong Department of Defense support for this milestone event. Their commitment underscores a deep partnership between Torrance and the United States military. As the Army marks 250 years of service, we look forward to honoring their legacy in this year's parade. Beyond federal advocacy, this trip reinforced Torrance's international partnerships. We are warmly welcomed at the Embassy of Japan, where we met with Ambassador, and at the Korean Embassy, where we engaged in key discussions with the Economic Minister of the Republic of Korea. With the LA 28 Olympics on the horizon, these relationships are essential to fostering economic opportunities, cultural exchange, and innovation. During our time in Washington, D.C., we also took a moment for reflection and inspiration by visiting the National Japanese American Memorial to Patriotism during World War II site. This powerful tribute honors the resilience of Japanese Americans who endured incarceration camps and those who bravely served in the military. Seeing the name of Torrance's own Ted Tanoe on the memorial wall was a poignant reminder of the sacrifices made. This visit reinforced our commitment to bringing a meaningful and educational World War II camp memorial to Columbus Park, one that will honor history, educate future generations. This trip overall reaffirmed the power of collaboration, both at the national level and on the global stage. I extend my gratitude to our dedicated delegation and to everyone who helped to make this trip a success. Special thanks to Carlos Huizar and our consultants Van Skoyak and Associates for their efforts in coordinating these impactful meetings. We look forward to building on these discussions and turning our advocacy into real opportunities for Torrance. Thank you. Councilman Kaji.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Finance and Government Operations Committee will meet here in the Leroy J. Jackson Council Chambers on Wednesday, February 26, 2025, at 4:00 p.m. We will discuss the annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended 2023-24, the fiscal year 2024-25 mid-year budget review report, and proposed program modifications. Members of the public are encouraged to join. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to item 6A. This is a proclamation declaring March 7, 2025 as the 25th anniversary of the Torrance Theater Company. I would now like to invite Gia Jordahl, Cultural Arts Supervisor at the Torrance Theater Company, to come down to the podium, or come up to the podium, to accept this proclamation. Let me come down. Yes, the whole group, please come to the podium.
Thank you, Your Honor.
We're going to start reading the proclamation. We'll start with Councilman Gerson.
Whereas, in 1999, the City of Torrance Cultural Services Division established a new program designed to bring high-quality, affordable theatrical events to the community. This program was dedicated to offering rewarding opportunities for local actors, designers, and technicians to share their time and talents, providing our residents the best in live theatrical entertainment in their own community. And
whereas this program became known as the Torrance Theater Company, and over the last 2.5 decades, they have worked with thousands of volunteers in the creation of over 150 plays, musicals, cabarets, live improv shows, and entertained tens of thousands of happy audience members. And
whereas Torrance Theater Company brought theater not only to the Armstrong and Nakano theaters, but for the last 12 years to a 48-seat downtown venue, bringing 50,000 people into the historic heart of the city every year. Torrance Theater Company has also reinvigorated the city's oldest park with specifically designed youth programs that welcome kids 5 to 17 years old to the Torrance Park band shell for summer camps in the dramatic arts. And
whereas Torrance Theater Company has garnered a reputation for polished and professional musicals and plays, as well as a reputation for creating a vibrant and welcoming environment for the actors and all those who help bring the shows to life. And
Whereas Torrance Theater Company has launched an initiative to bring high school students from Torrance and surrounding underserved areas to experience live theater and participate in workshops with TTC teaching artists in an attempt to augment arts programming for our local youth and further inspire the next generation of artists and audience members. And
Whereas Torrance Theater Company has built a loyal base of subscribers, donors, patrons, and volunteers who return year after year and continue to contribute to our unique and thriving arts community, making them an important part of our city's cultural and artistic programming.
Now, therefore, I, George Chen, as Mayor of City of Torrance, California, do hereby honor and congratulate all involved with the Torrance Theater Company in celebrating its 25th anniversary, and we thank all of the dedicated and passionate people who support this program from the stage all the way to the theater seats. Signed this 25th day of February 2025. Gia, you have some words to share with us.
Thank you, Mayor Chen. Gia Jordahl, Senior Supervisor for Cultural Services Division, and very dedicated and happy City of Torrance employee. I started with the city in 1998, and in 1999 was lucky enough to present our first show at the Armstrong Theater, and it has been the joy of my career to bring arts to our community and to see the effect that it has and that it continues to have. But it doesn't happen without the help of many people, and over the last 25 years, I think that I have worked with just about every department in the city in one way or another, because theater knows no bounds and there's always something somebody can provide to help us along our way. But to all of the volunteers, the creative artists that came in to help us, the audience members, the donors, we couldn't do it without them, but we also couldn't do it without you. Hearkening back to former Mayor Dee Hardison, former Mayor Dan Walker, former Mayor Frank Scotto, former Mayor Patrick Fury, right up to our current mayor, George Chen, and all of you have left an indelible mark on the arts community by your support and advocacy for arts programming that reaches not only out into the audience of our community, but beyond, and also to youth of all ages to show them that there are different pathways and different things to experience in the arts that might inspire them along their journey. So we thank you very much, and we encourage you to come to our 25th anniversary gala, which will be Friday night, March 7th at the Armstrong Theater. It's going to feature musical performances from some of our favorite artists over the last 2.5 decades, many of whom are Torrance residents, such as Cindy and Perry Shields, who will perform anywhere if asked. And we're very excited to have them with us that evening. But also we have some video submissions coming in from 4 of our actors that are currently in New York City on the stages of Broadway, including the current production of Gypsy with Audra McDonald and the premiere of Stranger Things on Broadway. So we have some great talent that has come to our stage and then has gone on to bigger stages across the country, and that's just a testament to the kind of people that come here to share their talents with our community. So it's going to be a lovely evening. All the information is on torrancetheatercompany.com or directly at the Armstrong box office. And again, to all of you, Mayor Chen, Council, and all of the managers and division heads, thank you for your support of the arts over these last 25 years. And here's to another successful 25. Thank you.
Any of you want to say anything?
No, I think Gina covered
Okay, let's balance the podium a little bit. Yeah. Well, just Okay, all right, okay.
You covered all the bases.
Right, there you go.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it.
You left me hanging.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Torrance Theater Company. March 7th, I think I remember that, right? Okay. All right, I'm going to stay down here for item 6B. This is a recognition of Torrance Panther cheer team. Councilwoman Lewis, you want to take it from here?
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening. Tonight we have the great honor of recognizing an incredible group of young athletes who have made our city so proud. The Torrance Panthers recently competed in the National Jams cheerleading competition in Las Vegas, and they didn't just compete, they won the 2025 National Jams cheerleading competition. Their hard work, dedication, and teamwork led them to a national title, making our entire community proud. Their achievement is a testament to their commitment and the strong support of their coaches, family, and the entire Torrance community. We are thrilled to celebrate the Torrance Panthers tonight with a special certificate presentation. I think they're going to slide in a special cheer and recognize their outstanding success and the pride they bring to Torrance. Congratulations to the Torrance Panthers. Please join Mayor at the podium for a cheer, some photos, and remarks.
I'm going to ask all my colleagues to come down. We're all going to join you down here. Is the coaches going to come or you're staying back there? Okay. Okay. Let us get out of the way here. Okay.
We are number one. We are the Panthers too. A little bit louder, three. We still can't hear you. We are number one. We are the Panthers too. A little bit louder, three. We still can't hear you. We are number one. Last time. We are the Panthers too. A little bit louder, three. We still can't hear you. We are number one.
Okay, this is a big certificate. So should one of you want to hold this? Okay. You sit in the front. Tighten up a little bit.
Let's all balance it out. So let's have some ladies over here on this side.
A couple on this side.
Yeah. Anybody here? How about you three over here on this side?
Okay.
Kind of distract a little more so you guys can get a straight line.
Just listen this out.
Right, everybody. Up, straight up, shoulders up. Show me your strong stance. Yeah, perfect. And then council members will be here. That's good. A little more your face.
All right. All right, we're looking for a repeat next year. Good job, girls and the parents. Thank you all. I know the parents work just as hard as the kids. And if you didn't hear me, repeat next year. No pressure. Moving on to oral communications number 1. This portion of the meeting is reserved for comments on items under the consent calendar or items that are not on the agenda. Under the Ralph M. Brown Act, City Council cannot act on items raised during public comment, but may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed, request clarification, or refer the item to staff. Speakers under orals are limited to either oral communications number 1 or oral communications number 2, and no longer than 1 minute per speaker. Time starts when you step up to the microphone. If presenting handout material to council, please provide 11 copies to the city clerk before speaking. Handouts will be distributed while you speak. It is now 6:57. City clerk, do we have any who's submitted requests to speak?
Yes, Your Honor. Justin Lambert.
We'll go on to the next person then.
Gloria Lara.
Okay, we'll go on to the next one.
Charlie Salinas.
Good evening, everyone. We are in need of traffic enforcement at Carson Street and Acacia Avenue. There's a private school there. People are stopping on the corner, dropping off their kids because it's the front door. And they're actually leaving the car on the corner and walking their kids to the front door. Now, we can't make a right-hand turn if we're headed towards Crenshaw, if we're headed west, cannot make a right-hand turn. This is the residents and also the parents that are dropping off their kids at the right place, which is around the back of the school. Traffic is so bad in that right lane in Carson, people are being trapped on the railroad track where they can't move forward and they can't move back. I will donate orange cones to that school if somebody can get them to place them there in the morning and the afternoon so nobody parks on that corner. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. We got your concern and we'll follow up. Okay, anyone else?
Carol Giles.
Carol Gillis.
Different hat. Hi, I'm Carol Gillis with your Torrance Roseflood Association. And you are hungry. I could tell. Although most of you ate before you got here. So tomorrow night, we're having a Restaurant for Roses over at Coyote Cantina. Yes, it is in Redondo Beach, but Redondo is a friend of Torrance, and we are going over there. And if you've ever had their tortilla soup or never had their tortilla soup, make sure it's on your list because it's delicious. But please pick up the flyer or mention Torrance Roseflood Association, Coyote Cantina, Redondo Beach on Pacific Coast Highway, just past the harbor, King Harbor side, from 5 o'clock till 9:30 tomorrow night. We'd love to have you support us. We're constantly making more money so we can have more money for the 2026 float, which we're going to need. So thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you. Anyone else who signed up?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. We still have some time. For those who has not signed up, you still can speak. You come up to the microphone.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and Council members. Julie Dojuri. New Horizons Civic Affairs Committee Chair, Co-Chair now. I have been asking a lot of seniors about the Torrance Connect service, and they love it, and so do I. I've been traveling using the service to Bartlett Center, where I volunteer every Monday, and it's wonderful. It's efficient. The drivers are very polite and nice. It only costs $3 for seniors, and the pickup usually is within 6 to 8 minutes. And I would like to thank the council for bringing forth this program. I would also like to thank David Mock, who is the transportation
Mr. Jerry, your time is up. But thank you for the feedback. We have our transportation team, transit team there, and I'm sure they appreciate the feedback. I was just asking David today about how's the data looking with Torrance Connect. Anyone else who wish to speak during oral communications, please step up to the microphone.
Hello. There's an item coming up or whatever on the consent calendar, I guess, about the fireworks. I don't know if you know this, but we made a deal with the city, or the city made a deal with the citizens, in that we don't do Red Devil fireworks on the streets or whatever, and the city promised to give us a show, a public show. That show started, and you guys were doing it at Wilson Park. It was a lovely day. It was nice. And then you guys cut it to the soccer field. And I guess because of fire regulations, last year, that thing barely got started and you cut it short. It was like 10 minutes. Don't think that we didn't notice. Now, all the stupid money for lights and BS, give the city, give us citizens a fireworks show.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm not sure that we cut it short, but we'll look at it. Okay, I mean, we heard you. If it was short, it was not intentional, but we're not going to argue here. Okay. Anyone else who wishes to speak, please come up to the microphone.
Hello everyone, I'm Andy Porchop, the original. I'm happy Timmy Goodrich is here tonight. I did not see him last week when we were celebrating the first responders. And I don't know if you noticed it, Patrick Furry and his wife was here. And as soon as you told him he can come down for a picture, he bolted out the door. So I don't know why Patrick Furry hates the firefighters and the first responders. I don't know. Maybe it's a protest against you. You did not name anything after him, you know, like the toilet next to the splash pad, you know, at Wilson Park or something. Something he would deserve. So anyway, how to fill out 1 minute speech? You know, it's really hard. So, but let's give it a try. Oh, look, time flies.
Anyone else who wishes to speak, please come to the microphone. I don't see any, so we will move on. Do any council members wish to pull any items listed under the consent calendar? Councilman Gerson.
8H, please.
8H. Okay. Anyone else? If not, I'll take a motion to concur with the consent calendar except 8H. And I'm going to ask the city clerk, is there number and title that you need to read to us first for any of them?
No, Your Honor.
Okay.
Motion to approve the consent calendar with the exception of 8H.
Second.
Start voting, please.
Crystal, I'm frozen, so I'll have to vote by voice and yes.
Your Honor, that motion carried unanimously.
Thank you. Item 8H. Looks like it's a request to set closed hearing date. Councilman Gerson, do you want to speak?
Thank you, Mayor. When we were setting the additional date for closed session, I believe we'd picked a different date. And since this date is now listed, I have to let everyone know that that is my wife's birthday. And since she is the one who allows me to do this, I will still be celebrating her birthday with her on her birthday, and I cannot attend this. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you very much. Anyone else wish to speak on this? Okay, Councilman Kaji?
Let's see, on the scheduled hearing date of March 18th, 2025, I will not be able to attend. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you for letting us know. I think we still have a quorum. Okay. All right. Anyone else wish to speak from the council? If not, I'll take a motion to concur with the date of this special closed session.
Motion to concur.
Second.
Start voting, please.
Councilmember Lewis is yes.
Your Honor, that motion passed with Councilmember Gerson abstaining.
Thank you. Moving on to hearings. Item 9A has been deferred to March 25th, 2025. So now we're moving on to administrative matters. Item 10A. Carlos, do you want to help us?
Thank you, Your Honor. Your Honor, members of the City Council, members of the public, Carlos Huizar, Management Associate with the City Manager's Office. Hello, testing? Technical difficulties? You know what, I'll do it from there. Actually, you guys can hear me now? Oh, perfect. Perfect. Good evening, Your Honor, City Council, members of the public. My name is Carlos Huizar, Management Associate with the City Manager's Office. Tonight, I'm presenting an item for your consideration that aims to strengthen the City of Torrance legislative advocacy efforts. In working with our legislative advocacy team as well as with the mayor, we are recommending that we consolidate the state and federal legislative advocacy committee into a newly formed City Council legislative advocacy special standing committee. The design to streamline our approach on legislative matters at the regional, state, and federal level. Currently, the city operates separate committees for state and federal legislation separately. However, given the interconnected nature of legislation issues and the need for more cohesive strategy, combining these committees into a singular committee will enhance coordination, improve efficiency, and provide a more focused approach to advancing the city's priorities. This new committee will be responsible for reviewing, discussing, and advising on legislation matters that will impact Torrance, ensuring that we proactively advocate for our interests regionally as well as in Sacramento and Washington, D.C. As part of this restructuring in consultation with Mayor Chen, we're recommending the following appointments. Mayor Chen will remain as chair of this committee, and then council members John Kaji and Aurelio Matucci will serve as committee members. This team will work closely with the city's legislation affairs team to monitor and respond to key policy developments, including our annual update to the legislative platform. There's no fiscal impact associated with this action. This is a procedural improvement aimed at enhancing our advocacy efforts at the city level. By consolidating these committees, in conclusion, the city will be better positioned to effectively engage with lawmakers, advocate for funding opportunities, and better influence policy decisions that impact our community. With that, staff is available for any questions.
Thank you, Carlos. And I think, yeah, as we went through the committees this year for the federal and the state, and it turned out the items we were advocating for were common. So shortly after that, the light bulb came on. I says maybe we should consolidate. So a little background, and just so you know, we actually acknowledge and thank you, Carlos, for all the planning you did for the last week's legislative trip. You did a great job. You and Jen, and all the planning, and hopefully we'll reap the fruits of it soon. Any members of the public who wish to speak on this item, please come to the microphone.
Is Andy Porchop again. This is a great idea. This is a great idea. Let's consolidate everything, including the city council meetings and the city, what is it? I'm sorry, I'm getting bored. Anyway, that way we could have one meeting a year, one trip a year, and that would save the city a tons of money. You know what I mean? And maybe we should consolidate the fireworks too. One in every day, every 10 years. You know what I mean? Because, you know, they can always watch it on YouTube. You know what I mean? Why to spend the money? Just watch it on YouTube. You know? So anyway, nice to see you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak on this item? If not, do any members of the council wish to speak on this item? I don't see any. I'll take a motion to concur recommendation. Oh, Councilwoman Lewis.
Were you able to see that
I saw that.
from here?
Okay.
I just have a question. How were the committee members selected? Because when I researched this item in the agenda, I saw that Council Member Shake is actually an alternate, as is Council Member Kaji, and I'm wondering, were both of those council members consulted about giving up their spots on the committees?
So staff, in coordination with the mayor, because the mayor has the...
Maybe I'll take that, Carlos.
Yeah, go ahead, Mayor.
Yeah, and I think I actually shared with Councilman Shake yesterday of the rationale. So the current one, the Federal Advocacy Committee, consists of Councilman Kaji, myself, and Councilman Matucci. The current State Advocacy Committee appointed by me was Councilman Kaji as well, myself, and Councilman Shake. So when we were thinking about consolidating, my rationale was, since Councilman Kaji was already in both, it will keep him on there, and then between Councilman Matucci and Councilman Shake, I was just thinking, since Councilman Matucci is rolling off his final term on the city council, and his schedule seems to be a little bit more flexible than those who are working on, the other full-time jobs. So I asked him if he wouldn't mind representing the consolidated committee, and that's how I came up with the appointment.
Okay, so maybe I'm confused because when I researched it on the special standing committee list, on the federal side, it has you, the mayor, as the chair, and it has John Kaji and Assam Sheikh, but it says Kaji is the alternate. Is that not correct? And then on the state one, it still has Mayor Chen as the chair. The members are John Kaji with Councilmember Shake as the alternate. So I guess I'm confused. It seems like that Councilmember Shake is on the federal one and Kaji's the alternate, but on the state one, Kaji is the actual member with Councilmember Shake being the alternate. So it still seems like that it's even. And Councilmember Matucci isn't on either of them. So I was just wondering, was Councilmember Shake giving up his position?
Ultimately, with the consolidation of the committee, it's up to the mayor's discretion to appoint his members. So whether Councilmember Shake serves as an alternate for the federal or vice versa, because this is essentially a newly formed consolidated committee, the mayor has the discretion to pick his new members.
Okay, so we're just going to get rid of those committees, and this committee will stand from now on for all the legislative.
That's correct.
And based
issues.
on, I think what you're saying is, I would, appoint Councilman Shake as an alternate in case we don't have a quorum for the meeting.
And I'm sorry, the rationale that I think I heard you say was because those were working, that works into the working schedule. What do you mean that our careers outside of the city?
That's where I was thinking. One was, since there is a committee, and this is just me thinking out loud, that Councilman Matucci is terming out, I thought I'd allow him the opportunity to be on the committee should he want to. And then when I talk about work schedules, because oftentimes I try to look at what's practical as well. And I see that a lot of time we have committee meetings during the daytime, and I was trying to mitigate, work disruptions to your work schedule. That was just an attempt to help out the normal flow of the work week.
Okay, I wanted to make sure that I was understanding the rationale behind that correctly.
Councilwoman Kalani.
Thank you, Mayor. I've researched this a bit, and I have a couple questions, please. Are the funding sources different between the state and the federal?
In regards to the funding available for
when you go and you lobby for funding sources and things like that, federally versus?
We have a set of projects, priority projects that we identify through the both committees up until this point, and typically the projects are similar in scope, based on impacts to our operations and issues of matter of local control. The advocacy in regards to legislation is the areas where it'll differ on the state and federal level, but it still comes back to our fundamental question of, are these matters of interest to local issues, public safety, environmental, housing legislation, but the majority of the efforts are focused on obtaining funding to support our existing or upcoming projects, i.e. the World War II Memorial, additional playing fields, and those may be homeless efforts. That may be a combination of both state and federal.
Okay. And do we have firms that assist us with our lobbying?
We have Joe Gonzalez and Sons in Sacramento and Von Skoyak in Washington, D.C. And we've been with those firms for several years.
So if this was consolidated, would there be just one? Would you consider?
No, we'll still maintain both. One has an emphasis in Sacramento and the other one in Washington, D.C. This will just impact the makeup of the instead of having two separate committees, you'll consolidate them into one. As Mayor stated, during our prior two recent state and federal legislative advocacy committee meetings, they were, I think, back to back. We realized that the meetings were pretty much the same in nature because majority of it was based on priority projects, asking funding in Sacramento, asking for funding in Washington, D.C. And I think that was a premise for requesting this consolidation.
Why did we have two initially?
I think it evolved over time where we had an emphasis. To my knowledge, in the past 20 plus years, we've had a state and legislative advocates, lobbyists for Torrance. while we belong to other, for example, a transit department is part of a broader effort for just transportation specifically. But the scope was, again, focused on Sacramento and in Washington. But in the recent decade or so, we've been very active, at least in the post-pandemic and pre-pandemic, reaching out and making the annual legislative trips to advocate for priority projects to support our capital improvement plan.
I guess I'm not seeing the necessarily a benefit to it when we do have two separate funding sources. The consistency is the mayor on both. Anyway, to make sure that on those projects that there's similar requirements, that there is consistency. But I personally like having the two committees. I think it helps build a bench for the council. I think it has more eyes on things that are important to us and making sure that those things are consistent with the entire council. I also think that we'd be taking advantage of the different talents that are on the council if we had the two committees with different people on each. And that's just my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Gerson.
I do not have any questions. I have comments. My first comment is that Councilmember Matucci was very vocal that when the charter amendments were put out, that the council pay increase so that working people could participate as a part of a city council member, that they could participate in this process and sit up here. And yet I'm hearing that choices are being made to exclude council members because they work for a living so that they can sit up here and provide this service to the community. So that's my first problem. I don't think that someone working is a good reason for exclusion from participation or for limiting the power of that council member's district office. The second thing that concerns me is participation. The more committees there are, the more participation there is. So when I first got here, we all took turns picking committees and we all got to chair one and sit on another. And it was nice because every single member of the council was participating and adding to the good running of our city. And now we're looking at these ad hoc committees that continue to now be exclusionary so that only a few get to participate and the many do not. That bothers me. I came from a different elected office. I went to Sacramento every single year. I am practiced now. I remember that first time going and what a learning opportunity it was. I moved legislative staff to move something all the way up to number 3 on a legislator's agenda. And then we discussed solutions, and being a part of that process, at the end, after we discussed what solution was best, I apologized to them and said, I forgot. This is the state of California. Next time I come to you, I will come with bigger solutions. And it was great. I created a bond with them and continued to see them for years as I went up. When I came to city council, I had to make the request and had to separately meet with the city's consultant to hear about legislation that was affecting the city and having that conversation. As elected officials, we have one super awesome ability. It is access. And every single one of us is an advocate with our state legislators, our federal legislators, our county supervisors, anyone who's elected. We have a natural bond with them. And if we are not taking advantage of all 7 of us, then we are not truly doing the best job for our city. Every single one of us should be involved in advocacy. Every single one of us should be receiving briefings and having input on which ones we think most affect our city and which ones kinda, so that we can help prioritize. I agree with what Councilmember Kalani said, which is we all bring something. I do not have Councilmember Lewis's understanding of public safety. Her knowledge is so deep and I could not compensate for that. However, if it comes to education, now I am an expert in that area, and I do add. So we all add special parts and contributions, and I don't want to see committees reduced. I want to see participation opportunities increased so that we can take advantage, because all 7 of us are very unique, very different, and come with a wide variety of knowledge and experience. So I also will not be supporting this consolidation. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Councilman Matucci.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to clarify for the record that my support of the pay was not to replace necessarily, how can I put this, is to really to supplement. Okay, we're not going to be able to make a living on minimum wage, but it's to supplement anybody that wants to come and run for office and sit up here and dedicate time, the amount of time that it takes, which means it takes away from, like in my case, from doing deals in real estate. There is a certain number of hours that we put into this, but I think the mayor's logic is based on people that need to go to work. If not, they have to take vacation time, sick time, blah, 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 or, the variety of reasons why taking time off may actually be a little bit more difficult during normal work hours. In my job, I can pretty much, cut out at any time. So I think that was the logic. But I also want to remind everybody that this is not the mayor making this decision. Staff came up with an idea of combining this because the projects, when you put them side by side, they're the same exact projects, and we're looking for funding from both state and federal, and sometimes even county. So it almost seems, duplicative in doing the same, different people talking about the same thing in 2 separate meetings. So it was really more of a way of combining those 2 meetings into one with this really ultimately the same results. Now, if somebody wants my seat, I'm glad to give up my seat if that's very important to you. I'm okay with that. I'm honored to have gone to Washington, D.C. and it was meeting after meeting after meeting. And I'd gladly do it again, but I don't want to, step on anybody's toes. I mean, if somebody's really gung-ho about being on this committee, I'm glad to give up my seat for that. But, I think there's good intentions, and I think staff is really the one behind trying to combine and being a little bit more efficient here and not do the same meetings, 2 meetings in a row. It was a little ridiculous having 2 meetings in a row for the same exact items. Different funding, but same item. So, again, I'll gladly step down of this seat. If the mayor's okay with it, I'll give it up to anybody that's really wanting to do this. I understand everybody's, reasoning behind, wanting to do this, but I'm okay with whatever you guys decide. But all I know is that I think it's a good idea to combine them and put 3 individuals that are willing and can go. I'm fine with that. Thank you.
Councilman Sheikh.
Thank you, Mayor. And I also want to thank all my colleagues to raising their concerns. I think this is an important issue. And I think efficiency, most likely it is when we involve most of the people here. We all are from different ideas, different backgrounds, different ethnicity, but I wish I had the answer why, to begin with, we had 2 different committees, which I'm a little bit shocked that we don't know why those 2 committees are formed. We have 2 different lobbyists. We use 2 different lobbyists. There are 2 different sources of funding. Yes, they all are about city. We need to have funding from state and from federal. But if we're not combining the lobbyists, it's 2 different resources, 2 different ways of getting funding from our city. From same spectrum people that keep on going back and forth, I think that may not be as efficient as we think. We got to have more people involved with that. more council people. As far as combining those two, having one, I think the objective is the main thing we look at. There are two different objectives. We want to have relationship with state legislators. We want to have relationship with federal legislators. But we have different people that you need to come and represent us. We have to have every person give a chance. And in case you want to have somebody out, I would request Mayor to have an open transparency. That will be helpful too. And I was shocked that it came from staff. Most of the time, staff gives us a little bit of background. But I think the background is missing here. It's a little shocking for me. I would not support that. I don't think that's beneficial to our city. I don't think that's beneficial for securing our funds. And I think I felt that I've been taken out for, I don't know why, what's the reason, but I like to see we keep those two separate. Thank you.
Councilman Adam, City Manager, just for the sake of discussion, we'll go back and do some research. I don't mean to misrepresent the history of the evolution of our committees. I'm sure there's some background, the formation and such. We'll share that with you for awareness. And staff's intent wasn't to create any sort of misrepresentation of the scope and importance of these committees. We just thought, given the nature of those meetings, at least in recent history, it's been advocating for the same type of projects. Nothing precludes this council from establishing, as Councilman Gerson shared, that relationship with the state and federal legislators. We applaud that effort. I think the more advocates and even our residents to call and to advocate for Torrance is a beneficial effort. This is just the conduit of the official voice. And the fact that we're discussing the item is subject to your ultimate direction, and that's where staff will follow whatever direction council provides. Our intent wasn't to create any sort of division or misrepresentation or exclude opportunities for council to engage. So, but for the interest of the history, we'll do some follow-up and provide you background as to the evolution of the committees, the formation, the evolution, and whatever direction you provide us. Just wanted to set the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Just want to be clear, because my understanding is that that came from the staff for efficiency purposes.
I think it was a conversation following up to back-to-back meetings, and why do we have two separate committees? Can we consolidate? And our sentiment was we could, subject to council's direction. That's why we're here tonight. But upon deliberation, if you want to provide a different direction, staff will definitely continue to support whichever decision the council makes. Thank you.
Yeah, let me share a little bit. I think when it was suggested, since I sit on both committees, and yes, funding sources do come from different areas. From the federal, we have different federal legislative leaders. In the state, we have different legislative leaders. For example, in the past, I think both Congressman Liu and Waters have helped us to get funding for our homelessness initiatives. And from the supervisor, Janice Hahn has gone. So we actually go ask, but the theme is homelessness support. And for federal, when Chief went with us, part of it is to get support to fully develop out our real-time response center, for an example. And then when we go our federal legislative leaders, we're asking to help us because they only have maybe a little bit of money. So if their state could help us some more, we ask them to help us fully establish our real-time response center. The Columbia Park establishment of the turf and homelessness related issues. So this past, I think last year when we started doing this, so the items were the same. And that's probably one of the reasons why it was suggested, maybe we just combine into one committee meeting. So even regardless of what staff finds on how do we come up with two. It will be interesting information. But at the end of the day, as Councilman Gerson said, we are all advocates on where we're at. Even when we make decisions at the committee level, we actually bring it up for the whole council and share the priorities to get the full council's blessing. We are flexible. I mean, this is, I know there was comments about maybe we weren't being transparent. If it was taken that way, I will take apology since, I make the appointments for these two committees. But I thought it was very simple when it was suggested. It wasn't to cause folks to feel like, folks are being left out. All of us absolutely are advocates wherever we go. Councilwoman Lewis?
Thank you. I have a couple questions, actually. Can you tell me at what point the Federal Legislative Committee made the decision to bring Armed Forces Day Committee business into this trip? Because I didn't know that you guys were going to go and talk about the Armed Forces Day Committee parade, and I believe there are other members on that committee as well that were also surprised.
So I've only been in this role for the past 3 years, and my recollection or my understanding in past practice is the city delegation team has previously met with the Pentagon to discuss Armed Forces Day planning.
Yeah, that's true.
So because we were doing this delegation trip to Washington, D.C., and we utilized our consultants to coordinate meetings, we were able to coordinate a meeting with the Pentagon specifically for this effort because it's actually the planning, while it's within the Armed Forces Day Committee, the police department is taking lead on the planning. Since the police chief and our administrative services manager was joining us on this trip, and they've made themselves available for us to meet with them, we took the opportunity to meet with the Pentagon. It wasn't done maliciously to take out the Armed Forces Day Committee members. My understanding was, there is a NLC conference in March. My understanding was initially the meeting with the Pentagon was also being planned for March, but since we were meeting with our delegation this past week, they were able to accommodate us for a meeting then.
Yeah,
Carlos? No one thought that should have been communicated to, if only the members of the committee, not the entire council, that a normal trip that I've taken before, I've taken the trip to D.C., and not during my trips have we ever gone outside to have another meeting that the entire council didn't know about. You understand my concern, do you not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all we're saying at this point is if you're going, and then to also find out, which I don't have a problem with. I think it's wonderful that we're increasing international relations, but I don't want to find out about it on a Facebook post after post-trip that there were meetings with 2 international consulates and the rest of the council didn't know. That's a little bit disingenuous to me that a trip was taken where 3 or 4 major things happened on this trip and the rest of the council find out about it at the return. I appreciate the people going to advocate for Torrance. Just want a little more transparency behind it.
Mayor?
Secondly,
Oh,
Mr. Sullivan, I have a question for you. The commissions in Torrance sometimes have joint committee meetings. Is there a way where you can combine the membership? And I'm not on either one of these, so this is really not for me. This is just for the principle of the thing. Is there a way that we can join have joint meetings of the Federal Legislative Committee and the State Legislative Committee, still maintain the Brown Act because it's still publicly posted, and that way it's a combination to kind of, it adds more membership onto the committees. It gets staff what they need to do to want to combine them. What are the parameters there?
It could be done. You would have to Brown Act agendize both committees. As you said, we've done with the council and the commissions. We've had meetings with the school board, so you just have to agendize the meetings. Obviously, it'd be complicated if there's overlapping members. That'd be kind of strange. But if there's separate members, you could do it. I guess the only concern is then you could also end up with a quorum of the council. So you probably have to almost agendize a council meeting.
So what if you combine the two meetings, right? Because you do have, it's duplicative. The only people who would transition out of the meetings would be council members Kaji and council member Sheikh, because they would flip-flop back and forth. If you combine the two meetings together and maybe not have a voting member, let's just say the mayor chairs it, leads it, but doesn't actually vote on things to forward to the council, would that work?
Like I said, you could agendize both meetings. The only issue would be if you have 4 members of the council there, I think you'd have to agendize it as a council meeting.
Even though one doesn't vote?
Yeah, because even under the Brown Act, it's hear, discuss, or deliberate. So just by hearing it, and the interpretation of the Brown Act, the way the Attorney General came down on a recent opinion is just being there is enough. So I think if you have that 4th person there, it might be problematic. Even though traditionally the Brown Act is you can go watch another meeting, but I think being on the committee, I think there's a difference between being in the audience and watching a committee as opposed to being on the committee itself. So I'm not sure that you could have them as a non-voting member. I think that would have to then, if you had 4 members of the council, again, this is off the top of my head, I think you'd have to agendize it as a council meeting.
Okay, well, with this, it would appear that council member Sheikh is going to lose 2 committee appointments. So what I would offer up just on my behalf and with the mayor's permission, that if council member Sheikh, because that would leave you with 1 committee, I believe. If we combine the 2, that would leave you with 1 committee because you wouldn't be on either. And so maybe we do the selection again, or I will offer up any of my committee assignments to council member Sheikh, so he won't have only 1 committee that he's a part of when the rest of us have the responsibility of 3.
For the
That's all I
record,
have.
I would not accept that. I'd rather keep the separate those 2. Thank you for the offer, though. I appreciate what you're saying. Thank you so much.
Right, that's
I'd
accurate.
rather keep
If
the
it
second.
passes, I
Thank
just
you.
want you to have the opportunity to participate in committees.
Thank you. I would not be, I do not want to be the pity and get that part, but I'd rather keep it separate. Thank you.
I think, did the Assistant City Manager want to speak?
Yes, Mayor, thank you. On behalf of the city team, our intention was to try and be efficient while in DC. We apologize if members of the council learned of the expanded meetings that took place via social media. We will do a better job of communicating our advance agenda. If there were ever any additional items added beyond the legislative priority projects, and in communicating that with mayor and council. Thank you.
Yeah, so before I call Councilman Kaji, I think probably I should share, I don't think the visiting the Pentagon started last year, actually. And how did it start last year was because there was an event honoring North Torrance Junior ROTC. There was a scholarship presentation by General Rafferty. He was here from the Pentagon, and he scheduled an appointment with me after that presentation. And we held a meeting at the City Hall, and him and his team knew that it was going to be this year, the 250th year of the U.S. Army's birthday, and was asking if we can help them make it big. And then they said, we'd like to invite you to the Pentagon to further discuss this. And it was me at that point. In my head, I already knew we had a federal advocacy trip already scheduled. And I said, well, we probably won't go there just for talk about Armed Forces Day Parade, but we happen that we will be there in a couple of weeks. If it's possible, we could probably carve out some time if that's possible. So that's how it started last year. Now this year, it could be that while we're there, do we have the opportunity? So that just gives you a little background how it happened last year. I don't know if it was a practice, but we're flexible. It's just to share to Councilwoman Lewis how it came about. I don't think I'm not aware that we've done that in the past, just that last year when we did that, at least for the federal advocacy.
We used to, I'm probably city manager, and Chief can probably chime in, but we used to send the Armed Forces Day Committee to Pentagon. And then it came to the point where they said, why are you here? We're doing this all the time. It was more a formality. And in lieu of, in other years, in budget constraints, we didn't make that trip anymore. So now what we're in this, again, the post-pandemic world and resuming our efforts, to your point, it was just another stop in DC. If council's desire is for us to continue the separate trip of the Armed Forces Day Committee to Pentagon, we can definitely arrange for that. Just giving you some of the historical background.
Understand, yeah. To me, it was, you know, if we have 2 meetings set up on one day and we could squeeze one more in just for efficiency, I think it's practical as opposed to doing a separate trip. Again, there's really a non-intention to, I know the word exclusion's been made. There's really no intended exclusion. It was while we're there, even visiting the World War II Memorial, it was just the very last day in the morning, we thought our hotel was right next to the memorial. Why don't we take a 10-minute walk, just make a quick visit? So it was one of those, we happened to be there.
Understood that, and that's not what I'm insinuating at all. All I'm insinuating is if that was set up prior to the committee leaving, an email should have been sent to the council saying that, hey, Armed Forces Day Committee, we're going to have a meeting. We got it at the last minute in advance. If any one of us took a trip for an intended purpose and then got into another lane while we were there, we'd be having a whole lot of different conversations right now, and they wouldn't be nice ones. So all we're saying is, if you're doing it, if you can get the time in, that's great. Just communicate that. That's the way we stay together to take care of the governance of the city of Torrance, is if we're all on the same page at the same time. We've got 50 billion communication devices. Let's use them a little bit and communicate those things. So when I get caught up on the street and someone asks me, what were you guys doing? I'm not looking at them like, I don't know what you're talking about. And then having to come back to City Hall and find out that my resident did in fact know exactly what they were talking about. So it's the mayor's purview to want to do the committees and point who he wants to appoint. All I'm asking for is just better communication amongst all of us. Thank you.
Very reasonable. Thank you, Councilman Lewis. Councilman Kaji.
I'll withdraw my comment. Thanks.
Councilwoman Kalani.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't know how much more I could say from what Councilmember Lewis just said, but if when we're in the process of making a motion and seconding it, can we also do some kind of concurrence that prior to trips and extended trips, that's brought to the attention of the council?
Councilwoman, Honorable Prime City Manager, like Mr. Santana mentioned, we plan these things in advance, and we do have itineraries. And credit to the staff for all their efforts. I don't want to take away from this trip. A lot of time and effort was spent to meticulously plan and arrange. And so I just want to take the moment to appreciate our team. All your comments are taken to heart. Appreciate the feedback. We'll make sure to, in the interest of full transparency, we'll share those itineraries in advance. And should you have any questions, you can ask staff for reconsideration or redirection or whatever the council desires. But our intent, at least, just for the record, is to be open and transparent and not hopefully avoid these conversations in the future to the extent possible. Thank you.
That's appreciated, and I just want to say that I know that this took a lot of effort and a lot of planning, and that's additionally why it was a little bit of a surprise to see everything went on and have absolutely no clue or knowledge about it. But I do appreciate everyone. I appreciate the staff very, very much. Thank you.
Councilman Gerson.
Thank you. I want to respond to Mr. Chaparian's comment. As I shared with the city manager's office, I'm taking it a little differently than some of the other council members. When I sat up here and I saw the presentation of what the federal advocacy agenda was, I assumed that the trip would be in line with that. And anything beyond what has been approved by the council, I don't know, I expected it to in some way come back to the council. Not necessarily as an email, but actually as more discussion and seeing that if the council does agree. We spend so much time trying to figure out what the council wants and the direction that the council wants. And so, as you said, this took a lot of time and planning. There was adequate effort to ensure that it falls in line with what the council wanted. And I feel like that more was done than had been presented and approved here. So I'm not quite as amiable as some of my colleagues.
Thank you. Councilman Kaji.
Thank you. Now I remember what I was going to say. First of all, I want to thank the staff for advancing the trip. I think it was very well organized from beginning to end, and I think we maximized our time on the ground effectively. Having gone to Sacramento and Washington, D.C. many times over the course of 40 years, and having participated in many Washington and Sacramento door knocks, I have a point of reference in measuring the effectiveness or the success of this particular trip. And so for the members and for the public, I think it's significant that this delegation met personally with both Senators Padilla and Senator Schiff. I don't know in the history of visits by the city of Torrance if the delegations have ever met in person with the members. It's a very busy time on the Hill always, and yet I believe that it's significant that we did meet with them in their offices in person, because I believe that results in a better impression on the member and on their staff. Additionally, I believe the visit to the Pentagon was, at least for myself, very rewarding, because in that meeting with the Brigadier General, I provided a little additional color to the role of the U.S. Army in this year's Armed Forces Day Parade. In January, President Biden, in one of his last official acts, awarded, I believe, 7 Congressional Medals of Honor. And one of those awardees was a Private First Class Wataru Nakamura, who was killed in action in the Korean conflict. To receive the award was his nephew, Glenn Takashima, who resides in North Torrance. And so prior to the trip, I did speak with Mr. Takashima. He told me about the experience for himself and his family to be escorted from his front door all the way to Washington, to be escorted into the White House, and to accept the Congressional Medal of Honor on behalf of his family. And so I brought that to the attention of the Brigadier General, who was aware of that happening, and she was in the audience at the White House for that award. So I raised it because Torrance has a distinction now of having not just 1 but 2 Congressional Medal of Honor recipients. And I raised the issue because since we have our upcoming Armed Forces Day Parade, and both of those individuals were members of the United States Army, I think that adds to the value of our Armed Forces Day Parade. Speaking to the other 2 meetings, which we had at the embassies of Japan and the Republic of Korea, I believe that both those visits were first. We have had meetings here with the Korean and Japanese consul generals, who have both visited the city of Torrance. There are, as many know, Japanese and Korean companies that operate here in the city of Torrance. They are employers here in our city, and there are those ethnic communities that reside here. So I think both meetings were appropriate. going to the Japanese embassy and meeting with Ambassador Yamada, in his office, he had two bobbleheads. And they weren't of Washington National players. They were Shohei Ohtani and Yoshi Yamamoto of the LA Dodgers. So, and part of our discussion talked about the significance of those two players, the influx of Japanese visitors to the United States, and also the heightened interest in Major League Baseball in Japan and also in other parts of Asia. That was also reflected in our meeting with the Korean acting ambassador as well. So I do want to share this with you because I believe, at least from my vantage point as a member and a veteran of both activities in Washington and Sacramento, that for our city, I believe that we made a great impression on those members on Capitol Hill and also with those two governments. And I believe as we look forward, we'll continue to build on those relationships. And I have, as I've sat here and listened to comments by my colleagues, I think we can always do a better job of communicating all of our moves as a council. And I think, Councilwoman Lewis, I hear you loud and clear. So I think there needs to be full disclosure to all the members. Additionally, though, I think each of us has the ability as a council member to reach out to any member of Congress and any member of the state legislature and to advocate for our city and also for those areas of expertise, Dr. Gerson in education, Councilwoman Lewis in public safety. So I believe that we do have a voice and we can act on our own accord, both individually as members and also as a council. So I think we're moving in the right direction. It may be clunky at times. It may not be perfect, but I do support the role of the staff in seeking efficiencies in how we operate. And if we can attain better efficiencies by combining these two committees without excluding any members who want to serve, I would continue to support that role in consolidation. Thank you.
Thank you. I see someone's making the motion. Just want to make sure those who want to speak have spoken before we take the motion. We'll just pause for just a little longer. Okay. Councilman Sheikh.
Thank you, Mayor. I make a motion to not approve the consolidation of state and federal legislative advocacy committee into a newly formed legislative advocacy special standing committee.
Would you add to that that the members of the current committees do not change?
Yes, and that's my recommendation as well. Thanks.
I second that.
Start voting, please. Your Honor, that motion passed with Councilmember Kaji, Councilmember Matucci, and Mayor Chen voting no.
Okay, since it didn't pass, it will stay as we've been. And that's okay. But I do want to give you a shout out, Carlos. I know that this agenda item probably went much more exhausted than you anticipated. But thank you and the staff for all your preparation. We're just trying to advocate for our city in whichever way is more efficient, and we will do so. And maybe this is not the right time. Maybe a time in the future we will continue to look at. And I appreciate the staff looking for ways for us to operate more efficiently. So, all right. I think we're on to oral communications number 2. This portion of the meeting is reserved for comments on items not on the agenda under the Ralph M. Brown Act. City Council cannot act on items raised during public comment, but may respond briefly to statements made or questions posed. Request clarification, refer the item to staff. Speakers under orals are limited to either oral communications number 1, oral communications number 2, and no longer than 1 minute per speaker. The time starts when you step at the microphone. If presenting handout material, Please provide 11 copies to City Clerk before speaking. Handouts will be distributed while you speak. So if you did not speak during oral communications number 1, this is your opportunity for the public to step up to the microphone. It's 8 o'clock. Okay. I don't see any, so I'm going to go to the council orals. I'll start out with Councilman Kaji.
Thank you, Your Honor. I wanted tonight to, sorry, I have too many notes. I wanted to thank our homeless outreach team for a recent placement of an individual experiencing homelessness and their coordination with the Little Tokyo Service Center. This is a recent development. An individual had contacted me and asked for assistance. The individual was originally from Japan, and so English was his second language. But this is where the Little Tokyo Service Center stepped up and worked together with Zalma, Irene, and Valerie. It turned out to be a seamless process of initiating that contact and then meeting with the individual to find out exactly what his needs were, and then placing the individual in housing so that he was able to not experience homelessness, but to move from his one place of residence to the new place. So I wanted to thank the homeless outreach team, and I also want to thank our new relationship with Little Tokyo Service Center. This is their second successful placement. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Councilwoman Kalani.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to wish everyone a nice evening. Thank you.
Councilwoman Lewis.
I just wanted to say today that Mayor Chin, Council Member Shake, and I had the profound honor of celebrating some of our centurions here in the city of Torrance, and wanted to extend a thank you to the Brookdale community for a fabulous celebration and a fabulous reception after. And I literally went home and told my daughters that if they want to send me there, that I would actually be okay with it. That's how wonderful it was. I also had the opportunity to attend the ICEA Winter Seminar. That's the Independent Cities Association in which Torrance is a member of. It was a great conversation, mostly dealing with homeless solutions and groups that were coming forward to talk about various solutions that have worked for them or have not worked for them. And the SPA 8 area was definitely represented and represented very well in that meeting. The main presentation was actually chaired by Supervisor Janice Hahn of the 4th District, who facilitated the homeless outreach panel. And I was very proud that Torrance was actually mentioned for our homeless outreach. More specifically, our visible vans that are seen out in the community. And even a council member from another city saying, those vans are everywhere when I come to the mall. And that's exactly what we want to see, that our dedicated staff and our management team is supporting services that mean so much to the community and to the region. So job well done. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Matucci.
I got nothing. Thank you.
Councilman Shake.
Thank you, Mayor. In addition to attending today's event, I think we had a car seat check event at Fire Station 1. That was very knowledgeable for newly parents. They brought their car seats, and most of them, they got new car seats. And we had a ribbon cutting ceremony at the Sonesta as well. So we were busy this week. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilman Gerson.
Thank you. Tonight, I want to spend a little time acknowledging, recognizing, and giving sympathy to the residents of New Horizons They counted 15 people one night, young individuals who were tagging in the neighborhood, and my wife and I were able to spend some time with them the next morning. Those residents so diligent. In fact, one of them spent, it looked like, 3 hours cleaning the U.S. Postal Service blue mailbox because of the ink use was resistant. And just to see how much the residents care about their community, how much they take care of it, and just, the kind, sweet people they are. Well, some of them came back and tagged again, and they were out there. I just heard again today. So thoughts and prayers are with our residents, especially those in New Horizons, and I hope that we will be able to do something to assist them and to deter these individuals from continuing to do that. Thank you.
Thank you. I think everything was shared during our announcement time. As we conclude this evening's meeting, I want to thank you for your active participation and interest in staying informed. Your involvement continues to shape Torrance and keep us moving forward. Thanks to City Cable for sharing our meetings live. In case you missed any portion of this meeting, you can find it archived online at torranceca.gov, YouTube, and Facebook. I'll take a motion to adjourn tonight's meeting.
I move that we adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
Start voting, please. That motion carried unanimously.
All right. Thank you, everyone. It's 8:07 p.m. You still have a few hours of sleep.